Okay, there you go, another look at her. And basically, I'm just going to start over and do close to exactly what you just saw me do in the first step. Wetting it all again. Now it was important. Take a note here. It was important to let it dry completely. Because if you don't let that first coat dry, then once you go and lay color in, everything is still just blending in as a first coat. Now you get a chance to lay color on top of color that's already set. So that's one thing that people have trouble with watercolors, is that they don't understand that in between some of these steps that I'm doing, I need to let it dry. And that's why a lot of times you'll end up with mud, or everything will be covered and looking all the same. So you want to let it dry, and you see now I'm taking the time to re-wet it. This time, however, I'm not wetting it as much as I wetted the first time. I just want some water on there so that it'll flow. I'm getting ready to put darker colors on. I'm getting ready to put on my second wash, which is kind of like the beginning stages of the shadows. So I call this a shadow wash. The colors that I'm using in this shadow wash are alizarin crimson, French ultramarine blue, and then some more burnt sienna. And for the most part, through the rest of the painting, those are the only colors I'm going to use. So now you look at that and you say, wow, that's pretty dark and it doesn't look right. Well, don't worry about it. Remember, it's going to continue to soften up and paint itself because you wet it. But you just go ahead and lay it in there, and don't even worry about how it might look right now. Every time I do this, it looks kind of funny. It looks like I've overdone it. But you go ahead and paint it in, and you'll see that you're going to end up with good results in the end if you just trust. So what I'm doing now is, you see how up there on the forehead I left that light area? Remember I told you that first wash was going to end up being your highlights, because what you're going to do is you're going to paint around your highlights, and then they're going to show through. Well, up at the forehead there where it's real light, that gives you an idea of what I was talking about. But what I'm doing here is I'm looking at the picture, and I'm trying to mimic with my brush where the shadows are on the picture, and I'm trying to put them in this painting. So I'm actually looking, and I'm being more careful. The first wash, of course, I just covered over everything except the eyes. Now in this second wash, even though it's nice and loose and it's wet, I am being a little bit more careful. I want to paint around where I think those highlights are, that the places on the face where the light is hitting it. So you as you watch me paint, you see that I am being a little more careful. And it's not going to start to take too much form in this step, even though as you watch it, you are going to start to see, okay, light hitting on the cheeks and on the chin, up under the bottom lip, and on the neck area. You're going to start to see those things start to form. But this is just a shadow wash, and it's going to give me an idea of where the shadows are. It's helping me to lay in a value scale. Now this value is not as dark as it should be. I always paint my shadow wash lighter than the shadows really need to be. That's just me. Some people go ahead and lay it in as dark as they think it's supposed to be right away. But I lay mine in a little lighter so that I can have wiggle room to go back and play with it. Because sometimes you have shadows in shadows. And if I go ahead and paint everything the same dark, and it's all really dark, then it's hard to get those shadows in those shadows. So I started out lighter, and then I build up shadows later on, as you'll see as we go along. So right now I'm just doing some touching up and making sure everything is smooth, and see how I'm making the line straight, and just going around and just doing some touch-ups to make sure that I got everything the way I want it. Just details. And it's going to paint itself. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to let it dry, and then we're going to move on to the next step.